All right, 2K fans, your boy JuKIng the Boss. Now, in a recent video, y'all know I talked about creating a better MyCareer experience in NBA 2K by making a more dynamic MyCareer, something that feels like it's going to last a whole lot longer. So even if you playing the game and you go through 9-10 seasons in this 1 year, it feels more dynamic and it makes you want to progress further and further into MyCareer and create your story. But there was one feature that I didn't dive into, and I felt it was because that feature needed a separate discussion, because it's such a feature that is so widely overlooked in 2K. And that feature is simply the teammate chemistry feature. Now, and I believe that they can add layers onto that and take it a lot further, because when you look at the NBA, there's so many players that have different levels of influence in the NBA, from cats like LeBron James, Steph Curry, all the way back to cats like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Bill Russell. You know, all these players had different levels of influence over their organization, over the team, over the league, and over the fans. And so why not take that feature, take that little piece of information and add multiple layers to it like that to make an even better experience? So let's dive into what I mean by this. All right, so like I said, we're gonna break it down into 4 influence/trust trees. We're gonna call it teammates, organization, league-wide, and fan. Now we're gonna start off with teammates. The teammate chemistry is a current situation that's decent but could be expanded upon. So teammate influence/trust should be affecting how your teammates play with you on the court. Now, and that means breaking down and looking into their tendencies. So if you are the Chris Paul of your team, where you like to kick the ball for an alley-oop, somebody's cutting to the basket, then that means that by natural goal, you should have more teammates like, oh, he likes to throw oops, so I'm gonna cut to the basket whenever I get a chance to go for an oop, especially if I can get that separation. You're already creating a more dynamic CPU that could change over time. The next thing is they should individualize the chemistry itself, which would allow for dynamic on-court tandems to be created. So essentially, look at it once again in the Chris Paul and Blake Griffin kind of situation. A few years back, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin were such a tandem. And then you had Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan. These were such a tandems that they were going to the basket every time he throw that oop up. And that's what kind of tandems you want to create, not just the orange juice connections. No, I want more of a tandem that can be between any 2 players on the team. So anybody that I'm having a certain kind of bond with on the court that succeeds well, you look at like the Splash Brothers, you look at how KD then came in and completely changed around the layer of that team, but everybody plays a different kind of way with KD. It would be so great to see that individualized chemistry created on the court. Why? Because it would also create a system in which negative individual chemistry might cause a player to be traded, maybe not even by request or demand, because they don't fit the scheme of things. And just that look up things all on its own could see some more dynamic setups, could see some more dynamic rivalries get created. If you got a player on your team who he's trashing it up, and you kind of like, man, I'm not about to kick him the rock no more. He messing up my numbers. He messing up my assists. Every time I give him the ball, he missing the shots. And because of that, it could cause you not to want to kick him the rock anymore. And by not kicking him the rock anymore, now he's going to be on the joint like, you know what? I don't even want to play with these cats no more. I'm basically running up and down the court. I feel a disconnect with my team. So I would love to see teammate influence/trust take that bit of a leap and get a little more detailed breakdown orientation like that. All right, so next let's talk about the organizational influence/trust, the relationships that you have with your coach, your GM, and your owner. Now, first of all, let's take out the ability to make play calls and influence free agent/trade acquisitions from the overall standpoint, which means you don't need to be a 91 overall in order to make rotations and all that kind of stuff within the roster. Instead, let's make it so once you get your coach's influence and trust up, you know, you have the ability to call plays, help set rotations, and deal with the end of game situations. You know, that final play that's going to tie or win the game. You know, sometimes you find yourself playing big and whatever final play they set just ends up with you setting a whole bunch of screens and relying on a computer to hit the shot. But you rather take that shot yourself because you feel more confident that if you miss it, it's on you. If you make it, it's because of you. Like, you want that. This is a whole my career scenario, not NBA career scenario. So the next thing is your GM. Now, your GM's influence and trust it's an important thing, because this thing allows for better contract negotiations, allows for the players to influence coach hiring decisions, and that's where you can influence trades and free agent deals. And by having this separate from the overall influence, what it does is it means that the higher it is, the better chance that your GM is going to do whatever it takes to get this certain player on this team. And now we talk about the owner. Now, you know, the owner is the key to all of this, because having a relationship with the owner of your team could be the most financially beneficial thing, especially mutual finances. The owner wants to make money, and so do you. You want to win games, so does the owner. And the thing about it is, all these things go hand in hand. They're responsible for the operating costs and the debt for the team. They're responsible for salaries, all this kind of stuff. So if you have a relationship with your owner and everything like that, then that means that you can go and influence your owner to say, hey, look, we can drop this guy right here. I know this is gonna sound bad, but we could drop this guy right here. Pick this cat up over here for pennies on the dollar, you know, and already have a better scheme in place. This person I think I would play better with him. We'll play a little more free form. This person has a better assist rating and all that kind of stuff. You get tired of trying to get free agents or trying to acquire people through trades only for your coach to come back and tell you, the assistant coach to come back to tell you, yeah, we couldn't make that deal happen. You know, so it'd be great if having the level of influence over the owner and the GM would essentially allow you for a better guarantee of being able to pull people in, you know, sort of like that, what they call them, the GM experience, right? So that'd be pretty good. Now, I know some of these things y'all are saying, well, you could just play, you know, my GM and do player lock on a player. And I said, okay, yeah, I understand that. But for the my career player, I want an experience that feels more inclined with the current NBA. Whether we agree with it or not, this is the current incline of the NBA. Like, they're players who have certain levels of influence in their team. Now, the reason why this is also better is because it can bring back the option for multiple dialogue choices in post-game interviews. And each of these dialogue choices have a different level of influence on different areas. All these influences would be independent of one another, but create an overall organizational influence. So managing these influence levels are key to your success on the court and off the court a little bit, because it's going to allow you to try to get yourself the biggest dollar. It's going to allow, if your organization looks at you as this is the winning centerpiece of our formula, of our team, of our organization, then we want to build around this cat. So we got to do what it takes to get this cat all the pieces that they want. So now we look at league-wide influence. So league-wide influence has the smallest piece, but it is going to have a big effect. So it affects the other players in the NBA willingness / want to play alongside you on your current team. And also it'll affect other GMs and owners' decision on how much they are willing to truly pay out to bring you into their organization. And this would also affect the starting levels and the starting influence levels in the other trees. So let's say you got a high league-wide influence. Then that means if you got a great organizational influence with your coach or your GM and your owner, then that means when you go to these other teams, you don't start with a subpar, organizational influence. You start with a better than normal organizational influence. So you don't really feel like you have to start over, and your league-wide influence is going to be dictating of that, because it tells the tale of what you've done for your current organization, and the organization looking at it, well, like, he had this much influence in that organization, so maybe, just maybe, we should give them a little bit of that influence here. Not all of it, but just a little bit of it. So we're not going to have them start at the bottom. We're not going to just have them fit in. We're going to get their take on things. So having that league-wide influence reflects how other players see you, how other players play you, and it also affects how teams game plan against you. And to me, that's the more dynamic thing behind creating dynamic coaching schemes. Because if the league look at you and say that you've been going on a tear from beyond the arc, then they're going to set up a game plan. The next team you go up against is going to set up a game plan to keep you off the perimeter, to make you have to finish inside, to find your weak spots and exploit those. I would love to see more of a league-wide influence, and those things also can affect how much you can get from your endorsements and everything like that just starting out. So if you got big influence on other players with Nike, then they could bring you into the fold and help you get an even bigger piece of the pie starting out, so you don't have to sit up here and struggle and grind till you get to that next marker in order to get that big dollar amount, you know. All right, so last but not least is the fan influence. Now, fans are the backbone of the NBA, you know, but in its current setup, it's not bad, but it could be better. So the current setup means that the more fans you have, the more endorsements you unlock, the higher the tier endorsements you unlock. And that's pretty cool, because at least is letting you know that these fans are leading to more endorsements. And it's pretty realistic, because the more people that you kind of can reach out to, or the bigger reach you have, the more that a company's willing to pay you to sponsor their brand, you know. So that's pretty cool. But one of the biggest things fan support and influence does in the NBA is affect the attendance numbers. So you remember when Kobe and D-Wade went on their farewell tours, you know, every arena around the country was being sold out. Away games, home games, it didn't matter. All these games were being sold out because it was on their last leg of it. You know, every fan wanted to be able to see them one last time before they hung up their shoes permanently. Great. That's awesome. So you look at that, and then you also think about anytime the Warriors play an away game on the East Coast, those games usually sell out because the Warriors only play once on the East Coast for each team that they play. You think about when MJ returned to the game of basketball, or hell, anytime a big name player plays against the Wizards, these things create monumental spikes in attendance numbers for some teams. And so what if you could affect the game in that way as well, where because of your star power, more fans are turning out to home games? That starts with the local fan support. So if you're out there getting wins, then all of a sudden you're starting to bring more people to the game on home games, because now more people want to represent a winning franchise. Now, national televised games could lead to more global fans, because that would increase the amount of people that come see you at an away game. So if I'm playing for the Wizards on the East, and you know I'm putting up numbers, and I'm a human highlight reel when I go play the Lakers. You know, don't get me wrong, it's hard to go there and have a person be your fan, but it's one of those things where you go and play in that arena, you'll have more people that do want to see you play. As much as they want to root for their home team, they still want to see you play live. They want to see if that magic is there. So those televised games could lead to more global fans, which increases the away games attendance numbers as well. Now, becoming a draw to fans increase the revenue to any arena you play in, even if it's only once a year that you're playing in this arena. Now, think about how this in turn affects the rest of the NBA. This in turn would affect how owners see your marketability to their team, bringing in more revenue to their arena, how GMs and coaches and players see your ability to help that team win, and how everybody else see your ability to help build a winning dynasty. This is, I mean, like, just the fan influence alone is such a big part of the game, because each one of these lead to the next level of influence. Fan influence lead to organizational influence. Organizational influence lead to team influence. Team influence lead to bigger revenue. By having these different tiers of organization and fan and league wide and teammates, by having these different tiers of influence, you already create a better, more dynamic product, and something for every player that plays the game to truly work on, to maybe go to a team that needs a winning dynasty and build that dynasty. Or if you got a hometown team that you love, you know, my boy, he's a big Chicago fan, and you know, he goes and he plays his 2K for Chicago, and then all of a sudden he be wanting to get this small piece here, this small piece there, and they don't ever want to give him that small piece there, that small piece there, and they want to pay him pennies on a dollar to stay and continue winning championships, but he can go someplace else and get a bigger bang for his buck. So I would love to see the 2K break it down into that factor, add that fan influence. All right, so now you look at it and say, well, how could they incorporate something like this? This looks good on paper, but how do they incorporate this in the product itself? And it's simple, but not really simple. So essentially you could bring back the multiple questions, add multiple answers at the at the post-game interviews and allow those answers to have different setups of influence. When it comes down to influencing organizations, you could essentially set season goals. Organizations set season goals for players. So if you played my GM before, you'll notice that when you talk to the owner, he wants to complete a certain number of things. He has a certain number of tasks that he wants completed for the season, and those tasks increases your trust in his trust in you. So I would love to see something like that incorporated in my career. Now, if the owner says, look, man, we want to get attendance numbers up, on average, and that would affect that as well. There's certain teams that, throughout the year, they don't have, 20,000 people coming to each game. Instead, they got, 5,000, 6,000 here, 10,000, 11,000 there. Some of them got abysmal numbers, especially for certain matchups. And then you got ways that you can influence all of these things. So, like I said, effectively, the owner could say, look, we need wins. We need wins because we want to increase the amount of people that are coming to the games. So we want to go from averaging 11,000 people each game to 15, 16,000 people each game. He wants to sell out home games against rivals. And the coach could be like, look, we need 40 wins. We need 42 wins. We need 50 wins. Having these little milestone goals, could affect it. And then those little goals that you do have in NBA 2K19 right now, so it's sort of like become a member of the All-Star team. Get awarded, become a captain of the All-Star team. Those little awards could also bump up your influence, fan influence, league-wide influence. Winning MVP can have more of an influence setup that affect across the board. And then each of these goals could affect influence in different levels, in different areas. Getting particular players a certain amount of assists. So like if I'm playing for the Wizards and I kick the ball to Bradley Beal, and he put up 16 points off of my 8 assists and everything, then that increases the personal influence between he and I. That increases the personal dynamic between he and I. So when we're on the court, we're like our skills are boosted together. And that's the way you create a more dynamic situation, because then you can essentially go off with a lot of different combos in the NBA. What would happen if you and this person were gelling together? So instead of just making it an overall base game, let's make it a more detail oriented base game. Now, that's my opinion. I know I did a lot of talking through that one, but like I said, it deserved its own topic, its own conversation. And I want to hear exactly what you all think as well. So do you like the idea of having these multiple branching trees that could create a more dynamic experience for each individual 2K player? Did I leave something out in this feature set myself? Let me know down in the comments below. Are you looking forward to 2K20? I did have one of my subscribers tell me that all this sounds good, but it really feels like if any of this gets implemented, it wouldn't be until the next gen. And I saw that comment and got a little sad, because I was mad that he might be right. And that's the thing. I still want to invest in the product, and y'all know I'm going to always be doing this until 2K gives me a reason not to. Until they give me a reason not to want to play the game, I'm always going to be looking at the ways they can improve the current setup. 2K19, great game. I will say that. Did it have its problems? Of course, coming out the gate, it had its problems. Is it more stable now? Of course it isn't. Yeah, it's a lot better than it was when it came out. But let me know down in the comments below, man. Are you looking forward to the 2K20? Do these features turn you on a little bit? Do they make you kind of like, if you saw these features in the game? I mean, how much you be really willing to get into that game? Let me know down in the comments below, man. It's your boy JuKIng the Boss. I'm gonna catch y'all on the next one. Peace.